This is a redo of the last part of the talk from last evening. What happened is, I guess my microphone system, the radio mic system, is breaking down, and I guess the battery died, and maybe something else, so I'm going to have to upgrade. Things are always, with a lot of equipment, you always have something that's going wrong. When we were interrupted, or when the system failed, we were answering this question. In the Chicago area near where I grew up, there were a couple of famous ghosts who were seen over several decades and have since disappeared. One was a young woman who had a fight with her boyfriend or fiancé at the Willowbrook Ballroom in the Chicago area in the 1930s. It is believed she stormed out and was hit by a car, although there are various versions of what might have happened. However, what has been somewhat consistent is that for decades, unsuspecting drivers would pick up a young blonde, well-dressed female hitchhiker on Archer Avenue near Willowbrook Ballroom. When the car would near Resurrection Cemetery on Archer, she would disappear from the car. These sightings went on for about 5 decades or so, and no one has seen her since then. She has stopped showing up like this. My question is, if these questions are true, how was her spirit able to manifest a body and clothes and be able to talk to the drivers? How could she have concretized matter to do so? Reports were that she was ghostly looking, but looked like a normal young woman. We were almost at the end of the answering of that question. We had determined that she likely had a very strong etheric vital body. And being a young person, and probably a highly vital person, she had that strong vital body. She didn't need to do the thing that earthbound spirits do, that she had to capture ethers from living people or from ethers that are let off when they die out of the blood is one of the greatest sources of ether for such people. Now, we had determined that 2 things were necessary, and the first of them was a strong etheric body. And that etheric body is what is capable of drawing mineral material stuff to it out of the air, so to speak, and becoming visible. That is a materialization. The other thing that we were talking that is necessary for such a thing is some means to galvanize the energy in that etheric body. And through a rather long, tortuous argument, we decided that it was not a matter of will, that she didn't will this to happen. This is something that came about as a result of desire. And we talked a bit about intense desires and how they are what most people think is will, but is not. So the other thing we can say then about this woman is that she had an extremely strong desire body. And the desire nature is object-oriented. And in many cases of manifestations of the so-called dead, the object of the desire is justification. Everyone wants to feel that they were justified. And she perhaps felt she was cheated of her life by being struck by a car, and she was cheated of fulfillment of her marriage or whatever, and she wanted to be objectified, and she wanted to be seen, and she wanted to be known. So we can see that she had that strong desire body, and that is what produces the materialization. Now, the other thing about that desire body is that it is likely obsessive. Probably a very strong fixed sign nature or something like that. And obsessives get locked into syndromes or they desire something and go at it again and again and again. And it is possible for the object of desire to become the manifestation of desire itself. And that is what an obsessive does. An obsessive does something again and again and again to accomplish its end, and that becomes its end in itself, and that is what happened with her. Very likely. We can't say for certain unless we could do a complete clairvoyant investigation. The reason the phenomena stopped happening is not because the desire nature tired out, it's because the desire body gradually disintegrated. Even an obsessive person, extremely obsessive person, cannot stay obsessed all the time. Now, if you're in the purgatory realms of the desire world and you're not obsessing, that allows the principles of that take things apart in the desire body to manifest. And then gradually her desire nature broke up and she was unable to do this anymore. Some people who have set desires can hold them sometime for centuries. There have been cases of famous spiritual people who remained in the lower desire world and purgatory for centuries because they would not let up in their desire. They wouldn't believe they were dead, or that their physical body was dead, because they had the attitude that this is not what it's like when it's dead. My theology knows what it's like. And some people don't like to admit that they're wrong. All right. Then there was one last question that we covered in this, and that question, I'll read it now, regarding evolutionary or spiritual stragglers. Can you give an example of who these people are? I'm thinking about people I've known who do not seem to have any spiritual beliefs or questionings, yet they have an inner sense of goodness or kindness. I'm guessing these are not the stragglers you mean. Are you talking more about people like Hitler, Goebbels, or Trump? We see how that person fits into modern politics. No, I'm not speaking about Hitler, Goebbels, or Trump. They may be stragglers in the making, but they do not indicate any evolutionary incapacity at present. In some ways, they are at the front. They're at least normal. They're intelligent. They're physically capable, though Hitler had only one testicle. That's not an evolutionary disqualification. And they're all reasonably intelligent. Now, they do a lot of things, or they did a lot of things that are not pro-evolutionary, but they are really not lagging in evolutionary capability. Even people that we consider mentally retarded in some way or another, or extremely locked up, like someone that is a Down's baby, or somebody that is what's the right word here? But somebody that isn't with it in a physical sense. They are not. They're not stragglers. We're trying to get at what stragglers are. They have a condition that is probably local and is probably temporary. It's only for one life, and that you go through something like that often, and you learn your lesson and you go on forward. What we're talking about are evolutionary objectives, and they're not exclusively social. They're not exclusively intelligent. They are not exclusively moral. They are not exclusively a matter of consciousness. They are a matter of all of those things and none in particular. So evolutionary objectives are all of those things. Now, different people that we see in the world are in different stages with regard to evolution. For some, coming to clear waking consciousness as creative free agents, that's what our work is at present. And that anybody who can do any of those things is really not a straggler. Now, eventually we are to become spiritual, creative free agents. We are to take our place among other hierarchies of creators, angels, archangels, thrones, dominions, all sorts of high beings, and we're supposed to participate in that. Now it's clear that those are not personal ends. Those are shared ends, and they are shared activities. Right now, our creative efforts are usually solo. You have people who collaborate in order to write a stage play or something like that, but it's not the same thing as creating together as one. So from this we can say that the future of this, will have to get beyond selfishness. The future is more altruistic, and it is more inclined toward all of us having the same spiritual vision with our unique point of view and adding that together to that common vision of all of us. So, the people who are unselfish and who are creative and who do things from the goodness of their heart, as we talked about in the earlier question, that they attract the soul material, these are the people that are the vanguards. And this objective, as we saw earlier, is physical, or it's bodybuilding. Also because these attitudes bring in the soul material that produces the golden wedding garment. And without the wedding garment, we can't come to the wedding. So those who will be stragglers will be those who cannot maintain waking self-consciousness and who cannot think in terms of the others or in terms of the all or of something beyond themselves, and they won't have the vehicle of consciousness to continue onward. But those aren't necessarily stragglers. They're in the direction of stragglers because opportunities will be given for them to catch up. Even out-and-out stragglers get opportunities where they can catch up, and some can even exceed other people who are so-called normal. So, if people cannot make it in the evolution, they're not complete dropouts. They get chances again and again. And complete dropouts who have put themselves or made themselves incapable of participating in the evolutionary creation are extremely, extremely rare. You may go many lives without encountering such an individual. Now, for stragglers, you asked for examples. And those are stragglers from the past, not stragglers in the making for the future. They are the anthropoid apes. They are the gorillas, the orangutans, the chimpanzees, the bonobos, and the other anthropoid apes. They are not advanced animals. They are retarded, straggling humans. Now we have to remember that mysticism, with the extreme advantage of clairvoyance, sees things differently than material science does. According to the mystics, we did not evolve out of the animals. But the animal forms are forms that we dropped off as we were recapitulating to become human in the early stages of the Earth period. And they are seminal forms that are taken up by the animals to produce, to work with and to ramify them and gain their experience. Clearly, we could not go through all the hundreds of millions of animal species there are or have been. As I understand it now, with all the animal species that there are now, they're less than 1% of the species that have been. So this is quite something. So the animals are a different life wave, and they're working with seminal creations that came from us. In the book of Genesis, it's called naming the animals. That is, throwing off animal forms that were an impediment to us becoming human. Because we remember in the moon period, which we have been studying for so long, we were animal-like and we had animal-like experiences. And we have, in recapitulating those forms, we became human. All right. This is just a brief statement to answer this question. By the way, since I've taken to doing this recap, this is a produced so that for the people that didn't miss the latter part of the previous talk last evening. This is done so that they can not miss what we were going toward. So more questions have come in as of last evening, and there are more questions that I have in the queue, but a lot of them are astrological, and there will be astrological questions and answers in the astrology talks, but that won't probably be until about January. Again, I'm sorry that this collapse or this failure of the equipment took place, but it was something that was out of my control, and bringing it in control is going to cost me a little money. All right, thank you very much.